right. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to our LA County Library virtual event, our watercolor series, our very first one, session one today. I'm Caroline Chang, the Arts Program Manager at LA County Library, and I will be your moderator today. And in today's program, artist Claudia Hindu is going to take us through a fun watercolor lesson. Just a few housekeeping things before we begin. Mics and videos will be disabled for all participants for the duration of the event. So if you have any questions or technical issues during the program, please share them with us on the right-hand side of your screen in the chat section. And make sure you set it to all panelists to make sure that both of us can kind of see your questions or any kind of comments you might have. And we'll do our best to answer all of your questions during the program. We are recording this presentation, and we will be sharing an edited version of this presentation with everybody who registered. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Claudia Hindu.
Hi, I saw, thank you for that, Caroline. I just saw something about not being able to hear us. So not sure.
Okay. If you're having any audio, oh, you know what? I'll put it in the chat because those folks can't hear us. If you do have any audio issues, I did put into the chat, and I'll put in again a number to call. If you have like a separate phone, you can call with. If not, you can chat with me, and we can try to figure out the technical issues. So.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, Caroline. Just want to go over what we need today. So we're definitely going to use, obviously, our watercolor paper. We're going to use it landscape. If you did receive one, just make sure that the side that's a little bit with more texture is at the top, and the part that's a little smoother is the bottom part. So just make sure you got your watercolor correct. And we're going to fold our paper, again, from landscape. From a landscape point, we're going to fold it. If you have more than one paper, you're fine. If you just have one watercolor paper, then we're going to fold. So go ahead and fold. And then the next thing we're going to use is, I'm going to switch to camera actually. So if you just make sure your paper is as so, and I'm going to switch to camera. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so again, here is the smooth side is at the bottom and the rough side is at the top. So if you want to just draw a line down the middle. Now let's talk about the pencil. Some of you do have this pencil here, which is your lead pencil. This is what I always use when I do watercolor, when I'm doing it just by myself. So that's the only thing that I do is I just use the pencil, this pencil here with the lead exposed quite a bit, and this forces me to draw light. But because you guys need to be able to see me, I'm going to switch to this pencil, and I'm going to draw dark. But everyone else, I want you to please draw as light as possible. Pretend it's like a secret and you don't want anyone else to see it. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw a line down the middle so you can see where my middle is. Okay, if you don't have watercolor paper, you can just use maybe the thickest paper you can find. And just for this is just, you can always, you'll still learn and be able to see what it is that we're doing. And then you can practice with any type of watercolor paper. It doesn't have to be expensive. And again, I always look for watercolor that is non-toxic. And then the other thing I use is just a little bit of water. So you can see in reference to my thumb, how small and how little water I use. And that's in case you make a mess. It's not a big deal. So in case you're working on a masterpiece or, something very important to you, you don't want to make a mess. And then last but not least, your napkin. So any napkin will do. And that's for a few reasons, in case there is like excess water or you just want to check the color. Yes, we are going to use the textured side. So the textured side is what you want. The smooth side is not what we want. We want the textured side. So, okay. So now we're going to go over a few little things. So if you want to just start, we're just going to start with a little exercise. So I'm right-handed. If you're right-handed, please switch to your left hand for just a little bit, just for a little bit. And if you're left-handed, switch to your right hand. So I'm going to switch now to my left hand. And up here on the corner, I want you to write your name. Okay, so just write your name. It's just little. Yes, you can use printer paper if that's all you have. That's fine. So I'm gonna, my name, so C-L-A-U. So we'll go ahead and write your name with the opposite hand you normally use. Okay, so there's my name. Yes, the bumpy side is, yes. So there we go. So I switched back. Now there's a reason why I had you do this, and one being that I can just want your attention to be here and not what you did before or what you're going to do after. So just, this is just a little technique we use just to get focused. Okay, so we're going to get started. So now I'm going to write down a few things. So the first one is, there's going to be 7 steps. So it's going to be water. Let me get a little straighter for you guys. Water. 2, color. 3, napkin. 'Yes, please write this down. So it's water, color, napkin, outline. And then again, water, napkin, pull. So we're going to review water, color, napkin, outline. Water, napkin, pull. So what I'm doing here, this side is where we're going to do our actual painting and our drawing, and this is the side where we're going to practice. So that's why I folded the line. If you have extra paper, then you don't need to do this. You can use a separate piece of paper. So let me explain. If you notice, it says water how many times? It says twice. It says napkin twice, and outline once, pull once, and color once. So just, again, remember watercolor, more water than color. So this technique is a controlled method that I developed. No one taught me this. This is just trial and error of 20 years. And this is when I'm trying to control my watercolor. In the following weeks, we'll work on landscape. So then we'll talk about the watercolor technique that most people are used to, or the most common one. So let's start. So we're going to draw a circle. It doesn't have to be straight. That's the great thing. And then a half circle attached to it. And then we're going to draw another circle and then another half circle. We're going to do 3 of these anywhere. This is your scratch paper. This is your note paper. So don't worry what size it is, what it looks like. You're the only one that's going to look at it. So these are just your notes. I'm going to erase my name just so that it's not so visible. Okay. So I'm going to show you the technique. So here are my watercolor, any color. So the trick is we're going to use separate colors. Now, when you're trying to, you're going to see why we draw light here. This is why we're practicing. So your brush is about, it's pretty thin. So you always want to start with a thin brush, no matter what you're using. It's always better to start small and then go a little larger. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our water. And here we go. So I'm going to do, let me get a thinner brush. I think I'm going to go a little thinner. So it's going to be water. We're going to follow the directions. So all this is water, color, napkin is a little tap, and outline. So I'm going to outline one of the circles. I'm going to outline this circle. Okay. So now I'm over here. So I did water, color, napkin, outline. And then again, I'm going to go for water, napkin, pull. I'm going to pull the color in. And there you have it. So we did all 7 steps right now. Okay. So now here comes the important part. This is the very, very, very important part. So we're going to switch colors, any color you like. So I'm going to start again. Water, color, napkin, outline. Okay. So here's my outline. That is not outline. Okay. So that's not it. Outline is if I go all the way in here and fill this in as close as possible without touching the purple line. Now it's outline. Water, napkin, pull. And if your colors mesh together, you maybe got a little too close or you used a little too much water. And if you did, that's okay. That's why we're practicing. That's why we have 3 more circles. So we're going to do it again. So we're going to start with, and now, yes.
Sorry, quick question. Someone said that the brush in the kit is thicker maybe than what you have. Is that okay?
Okay. Yes, that's okay. So they probably have something, I can switch. So maybe it's something more like this. It's probably this one's it here. Normally the ones that come in the kit. So I'll switch over. And again, so less water is what you want on these. It's a little bit less. So I'm going to do water. And then again, I'm going to get a different color. And then you'll see why you want to draw light. Because see how you can see the pencil lines? So that's why when we draw our actual drawing, you want it to be very light. Napkin. And then I'm going to go ahead and do outline. And then water, napkin, pull. We pull in again. And then we're going to also do the other side, which is water, color, napkin. Oh, it's not enough water. No, not enough color. So color. This is why I checked. See, when I checked, I was able to see it was a little too light. Napkin. And then now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing, which is outline. Again, that is not outline. So outline is coming in here as close as possible. Water, napkin, and pull. And so let's try one more. Water. I'm going to do yellow so you can see why we need to draw light. It's very important, unless you want the pencils to show and it's on purpose. Color, napkin, outline. So outline. Water, napkin, pull. Okay, I'm going to switch it to green now. Water, color, napkin, and again, outline. You do the entire thing, getting as close as possible. And you can turn your paper around. It'll be easier. I'm trying not to do that so I don't make everyone dizzy. Water, napkin, pull. But do you see how we can still see the pencil lines? So this is why we draw very light. And so I'm going to go over how we draw very light too. So again, we did all that: water, color, napkin, outline, water, napkin, pull. So this is a great technique when you're trying to draw a person and clothes and skin color, and you don't want the skin color to mix in with the color of the clothing. So this is how you control your watercolor. Okay.
Claudia, I was wondering if we have a few people who might need to go over that maybe one more time. Is there a time?
Oh, of course, no problem. So I'm going to do it without making the circle yet, without drawing it, without the pencil. So I'm going to start off with water, color, napkin, right? And now it's outline. This is outline. And then I'm going to go to water, napkin, pull. So I'm pulling from the outer part of the circle and I'm pulling in. I always like to leave a little bit of white. You don't have to. And then I already pulled. So that already was the 7 steps. Now, what happens if you say, well, I want to erase my line. I can erase it. It's already dry, no problem. No, good luck. It seals it. So watercolor will seal your pencil. And I'm trying to erase very hard. I'm getting some of it off, but it's very difficult. So it seals it. So that's why we draw light. The other thing too is, let's just say I want this to be darker, okay? Let's just say this one, because this one's still wet. Let's just say I want to make this darker. This is not the green I like. This is not the time to do it. You let things dry. With watercolor, you have more control when it's dry. If you go in when it's too wet, you're still gonna make a mess. You're gonna end up moving the color anyways, and you might tear your paper. So it's always more control when it's dry. So once it's dry, I can go and repeat the same thing and then make it darker at that point. So let me do the other side. So water, and I'm gonna do color. So let me start over again for those that need it. So I'm gonna go water. So I'm right here, water, and then color. I'm getting some color here. And then I'm gonna go to napkin, a little tap. I can check the color, any excess water. And then I'm gonna do my outline. So I'm gonna outline whatever it is that I'm drawing. So let's just say these are 2 balloons that I'm drawing. That is not outline. In order for me to do outline, it has to come in as close as possible without touching. That is outline. Now I can go to water, napkin, and pull from the outside in. So I can pull in this color. And there is 2 separate colors, controlled method. And so that is the first step. So now I'm going to switch over here. If you have scratch paper, then go ahead and use scratch paper. I'm going to move some things around. So I'm going to just show you how to use your pencil for a minute. And because I'm just going to use another paper, you can use this side if that's all you have. But I'm just going to switch to brand new paper just to show you how to hold your pencil and the techniques behind that. Okay. Again, you're drawing light, I'm drawing dark. Pretend you have a top secret and no one else should see it. So when holding my pencil, this here is not it. This is my writing. This is when I'm writing my name, or you're in class or in college and your teacher needs to see your writing. Okay, that's not it for me. If I do this, and if I do feel comfortable holding my pencil like this, it's gonna be a very relaxed. So look at my wrist, how relaxed. So writing, not very relaxed. Look at my wrist and everything that's going on, relaxed. So if I am gonna hold it like this, it's gonna be very low. So that's one way of holding my pencil. Notice that my fingers are touching the paper. They're not flying up here. So it's not like making soup, right? You're touching the paper. So for instance, if I were to draw a circle, which is little smoother, just my wrist smoother. Another way to hold your pencil is to place your hand out, place your pencil right in the middle, close. Again, we're not making soup, right? We're going, again, my fingers are touching. So again, I'm gonna go ahead and draw my circle. Another way to do this is to right in here, right in the middle here, close between your thumb and your pointer finger. And then now you have your circle. So these are 3 ways of holding your pencil. I mean, there's a million ways to hold your pencil. All I want from you is to be relaxed. That's the most important part, is for your wrist to be relaxed. Okay. So now that I showed you how to hold your pencil, why don't we go ahead and we draw something on this side. Again, you're going to draw light. If you are using the lead pencil, make sure it's exposed. So just to give you an idea, it's about maybe almost 1/2 inch exposed. And that'll force you to draw light. If you break it, then you know you went too dark, right? You went too hard. So that's a way to kind of train yourself to draw light. So let me see if you're able to see it with this pencil. If not, I'll switch over so you guys can see it. So somewhere in the middle, look for your middle. It doesn't have to be exactly in the middle, but somewhere in the middle of your page here, you're gonna go ahead and draw a skinny oval. So you're just gonna go around a few times and then stop, okay? Is that too light for everyone? Are you able to see it, Caroline?
I can see, but maybe a little darker
No,
would
okay,
be.
I saw a no.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
I also
so I'm gonna go a
wanted
little
to,
darker. So
someone also,
it's easier for me to go darker now because I know where I wanna kind of stay, because I can kind of see what I like. So, and then I can erase the lines I don't like. So when you're drawing an oval, you want to erase in an ovalish manner around, and then on the inside, ovalish manner. So when I have my one-on-one classes, I ask my students if they want to know. 99.9% don't want to know what it is that I'm drawing. So, well, I'll go with that today. But you'll figure it out pretty soon. And it's something easy. Everything we do here is easy, and everyone can learn. Doesn't matter. So right now, if I want to say that my oval is straight, I can assure you that it's not because I'm drawing from an angle. So what you want to do is you always want to draw underneath your nose. So for me, from where I'm at and the camera angle and whatnot, my nose is right now, it's right underneath it. So I can see how crooked it is now. So I can tell you that, but I'm going to leave it like that just to prove a point. So we're going to, before I change it. So if you want to check it, this you want to make very light because you want to be able to erase it. So if this is your guideline, okay, and now look for underneath your nose, look for the middle. So maybe I'm going to say this is my middle here. Okay. So before we go any further, you can already see this is not straight. I'm going to get a little closer so you can see. Do you see that all four sides do not match at all? So we need, how do we make that happen? Now you can just go by, and just keep erasing and guessing, or you can just go ahead and try this technique. So this technique is to draw a circle about, say, find the one you like. So I think I like this one here. I think this one's the best one. So I can kind of curve in there. And I'm going to draw the same size circle on all four sides. So on all four sides, now I have the same size circle. So now I know that I can erase this part here. I can erase this now. And now I know that I need to go around this side here. And then now I know I need to erase this here. And then that's good enough. And then you want this to match and you want all the sides to match. Maybe I'll shave a little bit off here too, just so it matches the other side. Now, once you have, let's leave the guidelines on for a little bit. Again, this line needs to be underneath your nose, right underneath. So if we're gonna go right underneath, I'm gonna go ahead and go up and down, 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 up and down. But see how the pencil goes up and down, up and down. And so you can stop, just leave some space at the bottom. So you see when you're using a very dark pencil, what happens here? So I'm getting rid of some of those. Now I can get rid of this line. I can get rid of my guidelines now. I'm going to leave this one down here, but I'm going to get rid of these. So I'm going to go ahead and erase that. And because you guys drew so light, you're not able to see any of these guidelines, right? So now that I have my straight oval and I have this line that's straight, the next thing I want to do now is to curve. Now, I want to go ahead and make both sides the same. So I'm going to go this way and I'm going to go this way, same size. A slight curve. I mean, it's almost like, when they force you to like smile, that forced smile, when you don't want to take a picture. So it's just like slightly slanted, but this part has to be flat. It's like having something that's flat, right? It needs to be flat. And then the outer parts look like they are lifting, but they're really not. So just a slight. Now you can go as wide as you want. This is where you may want to design or whatnot. Just to make it even a little easier, I'm going to go ahead and make this the same size in the middle. You don't always need these guidelines or that many guidelines, depending on what it is you're drawing. But just to make it a little easy, we're just going to do that. Now, we're going to go in. So when you say the word in, we're going to curve in. We're going to start from up here. And we are going to curve in and connect. And then we're going to keep curving in. And we're going to connect. And I'm going to pause there for a little bit for anyone that needs to catch up. And again, you can move your paper. It'll be easier if you move your paper and maybe go this way too. And then sometimes it's great to see your drawing upside down because that forces you to really see it with fresh eyes. Because sometimes when we're drawing something, because we drew it, we think it's just right because we are looking at something, it just looks right. We spend so much time on it. But if you turn things upside down, you're able to see things from a different perspective. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing I did on the other side. And I can see what adjustments I need to make because I have fresh eyes. And so there is, so I'm going to turn it in case you want to look away. We're back. Yes.
Claudia, somebody did ask if it was you had to, like when you were using watercolors, if you have to outline in pencil first, or do people
No, you do not. You do not have to at all. I don't always, yesterday I had a student and we drew some sailboats and we didn't use any pencil. She's been with me for a little while and I know that she can already sketch. So we're assuming that, we don't know who's in the audience. And, but you don't always, absolutely not. It would be best not to because this way you don't have to worry about any pencil lines. But if you're drawing, say, a brick building, I'm pretty sure you're going to need to probably draw it no matter how, amazing you are. But if it's like a person or the landscape, no, you most definitely may not need to. Okay, so see how difficult it is to erase, especially on watercolor paper. So I'm going to do my best to erase, but it's almost near impossible. And that's why I use this pencil instead. So now that we have this, we're going to draw two more things. And so I think at this time, you guys know we're drawing a vase. So because I'm not able to erase this line here, I'm going to use it to my advantage. I'm going to make sure that this is maybe my stem. So I'm going to first just draw the stem, one side of the stem. Now, you don't want to go over this. If you do go over this line, that's okay, but make sure it's inside, right? So this line goes over the stem and your stem goes over the back line, but that's always fixable afterwards. Now I'm going to show you how to do one method of drawing flowers, and that's to begin with the letter E, lowercase e. And I'll let everyone draw their stem. Now, just to pause here for those that are waiting, if you want to go ahead and do the other side at this point. So I'm just going to make it about 1/8 or 1/4 the stem. And again, the stem goes underneath this here, this line here, and then I'm going to go down. And then I'm not going to go all the way down. I'm only going to go as maybe there. And so back to our letter E. And again, you want to make sure your stem is here. And this is like that. So letter E, I'm going to start at the bottom part of the E. And then I'm going to go wiggle, wiggle, stop. And then I'm going to start anywhere again. And then wiggle, wiggle, stop. And I'm going to go wiggle, wiggle, stop. Do the same thing. I don't think you guys want to hear me say that over and over. Because then you're going to be repeating that later in your head. So just keep doing the same thing we said. So I'm going to erase my stem here. And so there is our first flower. Okay. So the more you, the less wiggle, it may look more like a rose. And let's do one that's a little different. So go ahead and draw another stem. Or if you want to, let's just do the flower this time first. Let's just do the flower first. So letter E, but this time there's going to be, yes, I'm going to do the flower again, but this time it's going to have a little bit more wiggle. So already you're going to hear me say that word again, over and over. So I'm going to start from the letter E. So letter lowercase e. And then I'm going to go wiggle, wiggle, stop. And then wiggle, wiggle, stop. And so the more wiggles you add, maybe this is going to look more like a carnation. So just by changing the amount of wiggles, and then you just keep going until the size that you want, you desire. And so this one looks a little bit more like a carnation. This one looks a bit more like a rose. And then now I can add my stem without having to erase it. Again, we go over the backside, and then we go under. I'm trying to not block it with my hands. And then we go down, same thing here, over, under. If you go over it, don't worry, we can always change it. So make sure that this line is over your stems. And this one here is under your stem. So we're doing pretty good on time. So now we're going to start with our watercolor. So before you start, make sure that you erase right now, because you won't be able to erase after. So try to erase as much as possible if you have like if you draw dark. So now is the time to go ahead and erase. I'm gonna erase a little bit. I can't erase too much, but I'm gonna try and erase a little bit. And we're gonna watercolor this using the same method, the control method.
Claudia, I think I still have some people who are mentioning that maybe the brushes even in the kits that are a little bit thicker than even what you had. So I'm wondering if there are any tips you have while we're doing this.
Yes, less water. Technically the ones that come with the kit are very thin. I'm not sure which ones you received, but if they are a little thicker, I'll show you one that's a little thicker. And so we got something like this. And so this one here, you can go ahead, I can be very thick, see? But if you can kind of just manipulate it to maybe make it a little thinner, and then maybe just use the tip, maybe that'll work too. I'll switch to this one so that we all have a large brush. So now for the watercolor, you always want to start with the lighter colors first. You don't have to, it's a technique. Just because if your water gets dirty or your color starts to mix a little too much, it's just easier, but you don't have to. There are no rules in drawing and watercolor. It's just the rule is to have fun. And the second rule is to make many mistakes, because that's how you learn, is from your mistakes. You don't learn from getting it correct. So now for, I'm going to go ahead and start with the flower, because of course that's what we want to do, right? We want to do the flower. So any color you like is fine. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to, because I think I'm going to do a reddish. Let's see what a pinkish red that I have here. And so same thing. So I'm going to get I'm trying to see where I can get everything on here so you guys can see it. So I always have my napkin, my water. And so it's water, color, napkin. And then I'm going to outline again. So I'm going to go ahead and outline. And I'm trying to do it so I'm not in screen, but let's see. I'll get out of the way. So I'm just going to outline what I drew. So over the pencil line, that's all I'm doing. And I'm trying to use the very tip of this large brush. If you didn't get any supplies and you're wondering like what should I get or what should I start off with, a Crayola brand is fine, and whatever brush that comes with is good enough. And that should last you a long time. Well, I'm painting almost on a daily basis, and all day long, and they last me a very long time. So now that I outline, I can do two things. I can go ahead and maybe add some water, some napkin, and I'm just gonna pull in. I'm not gonna pull in all this. When I'm gonna pull one section at a time, kind of like a little maze, and then do that, and then I'm gonna pull. Just have water now. I don't have any more color. It's just, and if you're saying, well, I want it darker, remember the rule. Well, my rule, my own imposed rule, is just wait till it dries. You have more control when it dries. If you go in now, you might not like it, or it might get messy. I always like to leave a little bit of white. That's just my style. Everyone has their own style. That's my preference, I should say, not my style. And I'm gonna go ahead and do the other one now. And less is more, because if I do want to go darker, I always can. I have a lot of room to. So I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm going to go for my other color. I think I'm going to go for maybe like an orange or some yellow. So I'm just mixing a bunch of colors up. So I'm going to go ahead and start again from the center and outline. And I'm going to try to cover those pencil lines.
Wait, someone asked, when we need to dip back in for color when outlining, do you still go to water first?
No, and not always, because sometimes you end up with, sometimes you already have a puddle in your palette. So there isn't a need for you to do that. And I'll show you where I do have one here in my red. You can see that I have a little bit of a puddle. So in that case, I would not. But if it's dry, yeah, you would for sure. Yeah, but not always. The correct answer to that is no, not always. Depends. So I'm gonna go back now. Now that I outline, I'm just gonna use water and then napkin. And now I'm just gonna go in and pull. And I'm just going section by section. I'm not trying to do the entire thing. The reason I love watercolor and I love to show my students on day one is because I believe it really forces you to have a lot of patience. And that's probably one of the best things you can do, is just to have patience with yourself, is probably the best thing we can do. So that one's pretty wet. So right now, if I would go in, it's just gonna make a mess. So that you just leave that alone. And with watercolor, you move around. So you let things dry. Even if you want to go back and you want that darker, just let it go and move on. So we're gonna move on. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the stem. So I'm gonna do my green stem, obviously. And I'm going to go ahead and, you don't have to outline this one because it's so thin. So you're outlining and adding color all at the same time. So there's no need to outline here unless it's a very thick. Let me get on this side, be a little smoother. So I'm gonna leave it alone. If I go right now, I might mess it up. So even though it's not straight, it's okay. You have room and time to fix it. I have a lot of water. I can feel that. So I'm gonna get rid of some of that water. So if you start to lose control, then maybe you have a little bit too much water. So I'm gonna go ahead and see how I go up and down. I did the up and down method. So same thing. I have a little puddle here, so I'm gonna leave that alone, and I'm gonna let that dry.
Somebody asked if you could put a paper towel on top to make it dry faster.
Yes, you can, but then that could smear it too. It depends. Like I wouldn't do it here. I mean, that's too, I'd probably make a mess. I would just let it dry. But yes, you can do that, especially like say if you were drawing the mountains, and it doesn't matter if you go ahead and dab your napkin. Oh yes, absolutely. But in this case, I wouldn't recommend it. At least not on the flowers or the vase or no. So I need to let these stems dry before I can go in with my especially that top part there. I could probably do the outline here, so we can go ahead and do the outline while this stuff dries. So I'm gonna go ahead and you can make your vase. Mine's gonna be a clear vase because I did draw the flowers all the way down. So I'm just gonna do the outline blue for now. So I'm gonna any type of blue that you like or gray, because if you look at glass, I mean, it's really gray. It depends. And if it has the water inside, then yeah, maybe it'll look blue to you. So it depends. Everyone sees things a little differently. So I'm just gonna go for blue just for fun. And I'm not gonna come up here yet. I'm gonna let that dry. And I'm gonna just, oh, I have, see, that's right there. I can already tell you have too much water. And because I am using a thicker brush, for those of you that do have that thick brush, I wanna be on the same page with you and show you that it is possible to use a thick brush. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to smooth this little area out. And if it's not straight, I'm not worried about it right now. There's plenty of time to go back and make things how you want them to look. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. And I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side too.
We did have somebody ask, I guess, how do you, as you're outlining, like, how do you make the outline darker than the part where you're filling in?
Oh, just by more color, less water. So anytime you want to make things, and even once with watercolor paper, what ends up happening is once it dries, you may still see my pencil lines, and they may still be visible. It's just a matter of letting things dry, and again, I love watercolor because it forces my students to have a lot of patience, and so it makes everything else easier. But if you can master watercolors, again, these are my opinions. My opinion is that if you master watercolor, every other medium will be so much easier, way more easier than if you master this. And by I mean master this is just practicing. That's all that means. But if I was sitting down drawing this particular picture myself and I wanted it to look very realistic, I can tell you right now it would take me a few hours. There's no way I would make it in 30 minutes. So that's just, and I don't sit there for 6 hours or 3 hours. I do 15 minutes at a time, or, that sort of thing. So no, you don't have to make your vase like blue or gray. You can make it any color you like. This is just like when you're looking at, say, for instance, if you look at this glass thing here, let me see, I don't want to. So if you look at it, it kind of looks blue because of the sticker. So same thing as if this was filled with water. But if you look at it, I mean, to me, it looks gray. And if you look at it, sort of depending with that blue label, assuming this would be water, then you get some of that, like that bluish green. So that's, again, it's a whatever you see. Put that aside. Okay. So the top part seems to be dry. If it's not, just wait. I mean, you don't have to finish yours right now. I'm going to go ahead and underneath, I'm going to go ahead and do the outline. And so there's my outline. And there is my outline. And there is the other outline. Now, I'm going to go a little darker. This looks like I need maybe some more watercolor here. So I'm going to go ahead and go over it. Looks like it's dry. So you can kind of tell if your paint isn't moving like it wasn't for me here, then it means I need more water. So let's see if this is dry. We're going to see. Yep, it is dry. Otherwise,
And
it would have.
Claudia,
Yes.
when you're mixing colors, which do you add to the brush first, the darker one or the lighter one?
I don't have a rule for that. I'll show you what my palette looks like. So it's just a mess, and that's the way I I like it. So like when I said earlier, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and use maybe like an orange yellow, I'll show you what I did. I literally did this. This is what I did. So I like to have fun. I like to be messy. You never clean these. You let this dry. So the next time I want, I was working on an ocean background. So those are the colors I used. And so if I want to go back and work on that, I already have my colors already set there. But no, there's no rule on that. The rule is to have fun. That's the rule.
Oh,
The
while
brand.
we, I
Mhm.
guess, we did have several people
Sure.
asking what brand of watercolors you are
Yes.
particularly using.
The ones that I'm using, I got off of Amazon. I don't even know what brand they are. I don't have it. I mean, you can contact me on Instagram at Claudia's Art Therapy, and I can do my research and then respond to you as to but again, I always look for anything that's non-toxic. I chose these because they have a little bit of that, like the golden colors. And that I draw a lot of sand and a lot of beach. I'm a huge like beach lover, so I need these colors in here. But I would start with Crayola. If you're just starting out, just Crayola brand, $2, and that brush that it comes with. You don't want that plastic brush. You want to make sure it's like a soft brush, and that's like a great start. And their stuff is really good, actually. So I saw a little part of someone just text a question, but I only saw a little bit about art therapy. I didn't see the whole thing. I wasn't able. Then it disappeared. Caroline.
Yeah, they said that they'll be going to school for art therapy next week. Do you have any advice?
Yes, I do. I do have a lot of advice. Take a lot of notes and learn, 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 learn. Ask a lot of questions and a lot of patience with yourself. And there's different things when it comes to art therapy. There is the psychology side, and a lot of psychologists, obviously, they have to get their degree as counselors or psychologists or even doctorants. My side is more of the art therapy on the recreational side. So I work with people with physical disabilities, say someone who had some kind of a stroke and that sort of thing too. And I also work with people struggling with certain, say like anxiety, depression, that sort of thing as well. So I would just advise to ask as many questions, especially if you're going to school, get your money's worth. Don't be shy. And I can answer more questions again on Claudia's Art Therapy on Instagram. You can reach me there or on my website. So right now we have our vase and we can go ahead and add the water. So I'm gonna go ahead and add, say the water, any color you want. I'm going with this color. And then I'm gonna go water napkin and I'm gonna pull. I'm gonna water napkin. Oh, I switched. Let me go back to. And see, I got a little bit of orange there. So let me tell you how I would fix that. So just some more clean water. Because I have such a little bit of water, I'm able to even just clean it here and start fresh. So I'm gonna let that dry. I'm not worried about it. And it might even make it look more interesting. So what I'm going to do, I can pull and remove. So let me show you how that goes. So you just pull and then you can remove, or like someone suggested, you can use your napkin too. But this is one way of doing it too. And then sometimes water looks a little greenish, so we'll just assume they're not fresh flowers. There you go. Done. That solved that. Now, right now we have our flowers and we have our vase. And yes, I would go back here and outline and make this more prettier. You can do all that when it's dry and make lines a little straighter. But I want to make sure that you guys, it's not about me, it's about you guys and showing you the most I can within this hour. So let's just assume that everything looks amazing. And right now they're the floating flowers. So we need to make some type of line in the back. So any color, anything you want. Right now, I'm just going to draw a line that goes from one side. So it's a little, I'm using more color, less water, again, for control. And so there's my line. Now they're not the floating flowers. So the next thing I want to do right now, so we drew our vase, we drew our flowers, we used watercolors, all in color. It's all amazing. That's awesome. We're not done. The most important thing for me, again, my opinion, are your shadows. And we will go more over shadows on our second class. I'll go over that a little bit more into detail. But right now, let's just make a decision as to where we want the light to be. And I'm just going to make a decision that my light is on this side, so on the left top side. And so that means that this side of my flower, which is somewhat orange, now I really am going to go for a dark orange. Some napkin, and I'm going to make this side of my flower a little darker. Why? Because there's less light. How much? You decide. Is it a room? Is it a dark room? Is it evening? Is it bright summer day? You decide. So the darker it is, the darker the room. Same thing here with the rose. So I'm going to go for this. So since this is kind of pink, ended up being pink, I'm going to go for like now my red, the one I had a little puddle in, and I'm going to go ahead and make this a little darker red in here. Opposite side, darker. Okay. Now, same with the vase. This side's going to be darker. So that means even my water is going to be darker. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some blue, some napkin, a little bit of tap on the napkin, and I'm going to go ahead and make this, oops, so it's still really wet. So I'm going to really go for even a darker blue napkin. And then here we go. And I'm going to at least make this part of the water a little darker. Again, why? There's less light. Okay. So source of light, shade the opposite. Now, if we had time, I would do the left side of each, same thing here, left side of the stem a little darker. I could do that as well. Or I could just do the bottom part a little darker and be done with it. So let me grab some green, and maybe this will be opposite side a little darker, and there you go. So I didn't have to do half the side of the stem. So what about the bottom part? So source of light, everything has a shadow, which is what we just did. And now everything has a shadow, which is now, so source of light, shade the opposite. We did that. Now everything has a shadow. That's the outside shadow. So we're going to go ahead, and you can make this any color you like. I'm going to stick with whatever green that is that I'm using. And I'm going to make this, well, that's too light. So I want it to be darker. Let me go darker. So I'm going to make sure that it's darker on the opposite side. Now, I want to shade in underneath where my flowers are at. So this is going to be the darker side here because it's underneath my flowers. So anything like that, there's going to be a shadow. And then underneath this. Now, from there, I can just use water and then just pull this out. And then in pulling it out, which is water, it's going to automatically make the opposite side lighter. So I'm going to go ahead and make this lighter.
And if you're, I guess somebody's asking if they're using too much water, if paper bits start to appear on your paper.
Yes, so if your paper is starting to start to crumble, it's not necessarily that you're using a lot of water. It means that you're not letting things dry. So just let things dry. And once it dries, you can go add as much water as you want, but just try not to go over things. Like I can easily say when things were wet, I could have gone back here and outlined, but then I would have made a mess. So it's just better to just let things dry and let them do what they need to do. But yes, if you're using water, and again, if let's just say your paper did crumble today, then that's great. You learned something. Now you know what not to do, which is also, a great way to learn. We learn from our mistakes, so that's okay. It happens to everyone. But now you know what not to do. So just let things dry. So I had my light coming from this side. So I'm not sure, depending on, sometimes the film will flip, but I'm using it from this side. So from the orange side over here on the top side. So I made this darker, I made that darker. I made the opposite side of the stems darker and this darker. And you decide how much dark. I could have made half the flower darker. That would tell us that the room is a little darker if I made the flower a little darker. I just did it the quickest way, so it's a very minimum shadow. And again, you want to make sure that, you know, there is some kind of a shadow. So maybe like once this would dry, I would make this part underneath my flower a little bit darker, this in here, a little darker. My paper starts to bubble. You start to see it lifting a little bit, but my flowers are tiny. I didn't read the rest. Caroline, can you help me?
Oh yeah. Can I go back and enlarge them?
Oh
If
yes,
if you drew them too
absolutely. You
small.
can go ahead and make them larger. So I'll show you how in a second. I'm just gonna go ahead and make underneath my flowers a little darker green. But notice that I waited till it dried a little bit, because sometimes you think it's gonna show and it doesn't. So just let it dry. So that way underneath my flowers is a little darker. So, and then underneath the vase is a little darker. And then now I can just blend in again, which is water, and kind of pull out this way. And then I can blend this in some more if I like. So when we go back to the flower, yes, absolutely. I can go ahead and maybe, I can go ahead and start with anywhere and go wiggle, wiggle, stop, wiggle, wiggle, stop, wiggle, wiggle, stop. And you can just keep on going. See how it's more prettier when you don't use pencil. So in this case, you didn't have to use a pencil for any of this. But again, I don't know if it's someone's first time drawing something, because I know a lot of people that can paint, but they don't know how to draw. So I wanted to make sure that everyone was included in this process. So yeah, so any other questions?
We did have a few, but we are running up against time a little bit. I guess someone did have a question about making colors blend.
Yes,
I guess
about
they
blending colors.
aren't quite blending right. It seems like it's darker on the outline and lighter on the inside. It's not quite blending. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe if you could.
So if let's just say I wanted to bring in this color a little bit more, and I don't like that thick line there, which I personally do. But if you don't like it, like I would probably like just go back with just water. So all I did was add some water, just a little bit of napkin. I have no color on my brush, and I'm just gonna keep pulling. And you can pull. Even tomorrow, even a week from now, if you have watercolor paper and you want to pull the color in more, it'll pull even if it's dry. So just again, let things dry first and see how you like them, and then go from there. And a lot of times I have students that don't like their art right away. And then the next day I always tell them, you'll like it tomorrow. Just give it a day and you'll like it. Don't do anything till tomorrow. And I guarantee you'll like it tomorrow. And then they'll come back and say, no, you were right. I do like it. But sometimes we just, you know, ask too much of ourselves. So. But the whole idea is to give yourself have fun. So I'm just going over some of these lines here now. And I would do the same thing here. Do you have any other questions, Caroline, while I'm doing
Yeah,
this?
maybe the size of the brush. I know
Yes.
ours, it seems like the ones that we have in the kits are number 7s, but are there other recommended sizes you would
So
recommend for
I
the
can
rest of
tell
the
you right
series?
now, like the brush number sometimes is not always the same. So I can do a brush 7 on one brand and then another brand, and then go like that. So see how this was wet? I just meshed it up. So that's why you gotta just let things dry. But no, I wouldn't go by number. I would just go by a small size. Thin is the best way. And I'll check in to see what it is that they're using. And but yeah, no, it should be. It's easier if it's thinner. But like I showed you with this one, it is possible too, as long as you're able to do this. Sometimes I just grab the scissors and I cut I have to cut my brush. Sometimes there's like a loose hair too. But yeah.
And it is 6 o'clock. I know we had a few other questions about supplies and stuff.
Yes.
But so there are 4 more lessons in this series. So if you want to come back, and it is, correct me if I'm wrong, Claudia, but the same, if you pick up a kit from one of our libraries, you can use that same kit for all the rest of the lessons. And you won't need to, you can drop in at any lesson. You don't have to like go to all of them at once, or like go to all of them in order or anything like that. So everyone can see me as I'm talking. So thank you so much, Claudia. It was really great.
Thank you.
It was really great to kick off this series. I'm super excited. Um, so just to reiterate, this is a 5-part series of watercolor lessons. It's every Wednesday in June at 5 o'clock. You do have to sign up for each series individually. Right now we have the second class, which will be Wednesday, June 9th at 5 p.m. It's on our website, and I will put that website in the chat right now. So you can sign up on that website. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not hyperlinked. I will do that. And so you just have to register. Again, you can pick up supplies. We have I would have to say, very limited supply of watercolor kits at every single library. That's 81 libraries across LA County, and that are open right now. And you can find out which library is nearest you that is open and their hours at the link I'm putting in the chat right now as well. And those kits will have I think the brush and the watercolor palette and watercolor paper. I think the only thing you might need to supply yourself is a pencil and like a paper towel or napkin. And yes, in the chat, you do have to sign up each individual week. You don't sign up once and you're not signed up for the rest of it. You have to like go in and register each time. Let's see, and you do not have to attend them in order, and you don't need the previous session to attend the next one. You can drop in any one of them.
That's correct. Yes.
And Claudia will also be teaching 2 other different drawing classes this month as well. Basic art technique on June 12th. That's also up on that virtual programming website if you want to register for that now. And a figure drawing class later on in the month too. So to learn more and to register for these, you can keep an eye out again for our weekly virtual programming email newsletter, or you can visit us at lacountylibrary.org/virtual-programming. All right. Thank you so much, Claudia.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.